shooting the 300th episode, was that another day at the hospital, or was it, you know, something special?
It's, you know, in some respects it's just another episode, but the writers have done something very clever with the characters.
Could you reveal some of that?
No, I cannot. But I will say it's an homage. The 300th is an homage to the history of the show and how we got to this place. And we're paying homage to everybody, or a lot of people that helped us get here.
How has it been being a part of a show that's left such a mark on people's hearts and memories?
Oh, it's been pretty special. You know, most actors will go their entire career and never experience what we've experienced here. Obviously, the landscape of television has changed. You won't see another 300 episodes coming out of a show now with all the platforms and streaming. Now you won't. So to be a part of something that's become so iconic as Grey's Anatomy, it's been pretty special. And we've, you know, you've watched the evolution of television as well. You know, we're talking now 14 seasons. So back to '05 is when we premiered. So and up to now, 2017. TV's changed a lot. I think Grey's Anatomy had something to do with that change too. So it's been really special and been very grateful.
Season 14 now is going to present a new problem for Dr. Owen Hunt, right, because of Amelia's tumor. And I wanted to know maybe the complexity in having to act that, along with the fact that he's had his PTSD and all that, his flashbacks, how it's a complex thing to get into.
Yeah, you know, I mean, nobody expected her behavior to be you know, tumor related. Right. So it's a big curveball for the two of them, and it's really going to test their marriage, and it's going to make them ask quite a lot of very sort of fundamental, quite existential questions about, do we really know each other? Because we were married under almost false pretenses in a strange way, because she had this tumor which was affecting all of her choices and her decisions, and now the tumor and the removal of it kind of set the stage for almost a fresh start. You know, so it's going to be very complex because he still loves her and I think she still loves him, but they're almost strangers together, you know. So it's very weird. It's very strange for them both.
She's surrounded by very talented medical professionals, and so I think she's in pretty good hands. And but the big thing, yeah, she has to kind of let go of some of the control that she has in her life. I think as a neurosurgeon, she's used to fixing other people's problems and not really allowing people in to nurture and heal her. And so this is a moment where she has to become vulnerable and kind of accept her helplessness in the face of this huge life event. And allow others to help her. And I think that's difficult for her.
Do you think this show has shaped you outside of your own life as well?
100%. Yes, yes. I lost my mother at a very young age, so death is something that I've always thought about. That has always been in the back of my mind. That has always affected how I live in the world and how I see things and my experience. And it's funny because, you know, originally when I had the opportunity to come and do this show, I wasn't interested because hospital shows are about death, and I thought it'll make me nervous and I don't want to see that much death. And of course, you think you have control over your destiny, but you really don't. So I did the pilot, and here we are 14 years later. And yes, I do think that even though it's just a TV show, we do deal with death a lot. And it makes you think about our mortality a lot.
Time has done that, you know. First off, you live in California, the weather's always pretty much the same, so the seasons are a better barometer for time, I feel. And I'm from the seasons in the Midwest, but here it's like the light is always the same, the most beautiful light, by the way. But and being in the same clothes with the same actors, with the same, you know, it sort of puts time in a vacuum. It's shaped my view a lot. I mean, I've matured through it, and you know, had stability, like I said, and I can afford to eat nice food at times, and you know, my kids, I've raised my kids through the show, so I'm sure my view has changed a lot. I can answer, that's the best answer to that. not what, but it has.
Obviously, to portray a doctor, you need to receive some sort of medical training or instruction on how to credibly manipulate the instruments, all that. How was that process, and did it affect you, in your day-to-day medical knowledge?
Well, you speak about that process. How was that process in the past tense? That learning goes on every day, right? So we have a technical medical advisor, producer. Her name is Linda Klein. She's been on the show since the pilot, and she is responsible for teaching us exactly what we need to know. I think everybody's process is different. For me, I really like to understand when I have medical terms or medical scene at all. In order to memorize it, I really need to understand what the procedure really is and why we're doing it. And then I can memorize it much easier. And of course, we have to take some dramatic license, right? Because I'm sure lots of doctors and nurses roll their eyes, and but we try where we can to make it as authentic as possible.
I'm in the yellow suit today because we're doing this ER stuff with Linda Klein, and the ER stuff's really fun because it's fast and it's frenetic, and you're just kind of patching people up, and that's what Owen's good at. He comes from the army environment and from being in the field in Iraq and different war zones, so his strength really is to kind of do things on the fly. So that's really fun to do that. So high energy. We have Linda Klein, who's kind of our head of medical, who basically, raps us across the knuckles and tells us we're bad if we don't do it correctly, and she teaches us how to do it properly so it looks authentic. So that's a really fun part of this. I couldn't do any medical procedure in real life, obviously, but as far as faking it, I'm pretty good at it now.
Right. Has that bled into your life a little bit? Maybe the knowledge of medicine and maybe diagnosing a friend or something like that through symptoms?
Yeah, a little bit. It's interesting how much of it sort of does rub off. You start to gain some kind of an anatomical knowledge and stuff like that. But no, I would not trust my medical opinion on anything ever.
Tell us about your experience directing the show. We know you've had your hand in that.
Yeah.
How did it change your view on acting or on the show when it came to being behind the camera?
Well, it made me roll my eyes even more at half the directors who come in here. The women are the most efficient and the fastest. Debbie Allen is the most amazing director we have. It might be better to keep my thoughts to myself on how but it was very interesting to learn the other side of it. I see the other side of it a lot, but I was never on the other side of it. It came pretty naturally to me because I've been here so long. I might have a completely different experience if I went to direct something else. It might be much more challenging. But for the most part, I think spending this much time on set, if you're a creative person and you're a visual person, I think that directing is all about the preparation, really, is knowing what vision you have for every scene and how to tell that story. And as long as you prepare, then once you get to set, you should be able to just fly and have fun and watch the performances. And that was my favorite part of it, is working with these actors, in a different capacity. It was super fun for me.
Directing for series television is something I never saw for myself. I never envisioned it. I grew up doing theater, doing musicals, so maybe directing that, but not television. In season 4, my executive producers kind of came to me and said, you should consider directing the show. And any reasonable person would say, no, I don't know anything about directing. But I didn't know how to do that. So I said, sure, okay. And that's when I really started to watch. I mostly watched our directors that came and looked mostly for what they did not so well, right? Those were my real teachers. And then could compare that to the directors that came that really, hit it off, whether it's with our crew or with our cast, just really seemed like they kind of had it together and the days moved really smoothly. Right. And so I got my first episode in season 6. It was sort of all about Derek Shepherd and this fancy tumor that he had to try to remove, and it's been 2 episodes a season since then.
What do you think kept the show so fresh and interesting and kept people coming back? Because it feels like it could have easily fallen into, okay, well, what else can happen? You know, people are getting sick, there are medical mysteries that have to be solved.
Well, there's a lot of answers to that. I mean, it all goes back to Chandra Rhimes and her noggin and what she thinks about and how she's going to take these characters in different directions.
Right.
You know, there's always a younger group that come in and they bring in an audience. There's such a diverse cast that brings in an audience. Everyone can relate to one character or another. I think that was a huge part of why it has stamina. You know, and then the whole new generation of the World Wide Web and TV and streaming and all that stuff, we have a new audience that have been watched all this through the computers.
Right.
And so it's just like a wave of new ones, and it just, you know, the show speaks to people. Everyone has to deal with life and death and disease and love, and you know, I think it inspires people to learn something about themselves and their lives, and we get to do it for them. So we're doctors, we play doctors, but in a sense, we're also, like lots of artists, we're healers, and we get to help people heal.
I think the one thing we were most proud of is the fact that it's caused some viewers to go into the field of medicine. I can't count how many fans that I've run into who have now, or who gone into med school or have become doctors because, oh, I watched the show and it made me want to become a doctor.
Wow.
So, and I'm quite sure a lot of the other cast members have similar stories, but yeah, it's the show has had that kind of impact over the years. Yeah.
I think if there's one word I would use to describe my time here is evolution. You know, it keeps evolving. The show keeps evolving, the cast evolves, the crew evolves. There's a lot of different ways to look at it and things to talk about when you talk about a television show that's gone for 14 years, right? But the predominant element, I think, consistently is change, funny enough, which is strange for me to say for being in the same job for 14 years. But everything around me has changed so much and continues to change, as does life, right?
Right.
So it's almost a meditation, you know, staying in something this long and watching it all move around you, but being a part of it. I've learned some wonderful life lessons about what to do and what not to do, and
Right.
what's a productive way to move through life and what is a non-productive way to move through life.
Yeah.
It's given me many lessons, this show, many blessings.
It feels amazing, you know. I remember when I started on the show around about season 5, we had the 100th episode celebration.
Right.
And that seemed like this huge number. And since then we've had the 200th and the 250th and now the 300th. So it's like, I can't believe that, it's hard to put into words really, you know, like, it's so rare for a show to go this long. It's such a kind of blessing to be part of it and to be, you know, in this family. And it really is a family. We've all been together for quite some time now. And everybody loves each other, you know. It's like, it is really like my family now. All my family, real family, are in Scotland. So my Grace family have kind of become my family in a real sense, you know. So it's really like every day I come to work, I'm kind of pinching myself. Even on the days when we're exhausted and we've worked 14 hours and it's hard and, you know, it can be hard. You know, the schedule's tough sometimes. But even on those days, I always feel grateful, you know.
It's pretty surreal. I will say, you know, when I first came to the show, it was such a pleasure for me because I'd been watching the show in the beginning, and so it felt kind of like stepping into a dream to come and be surrounded with, you know, the characters on the show that you love. And now that family has extended because I think now when I travel, when I'm on an airplane or when I'm, you know, even anywhere, any country I've been to, there are people who love the show. And so the family that was started here on the set has expanded, and you do feel like people feel a connection to you all over the world, and you feel a connection to them because you have this shared experience.
Well, as an actor, of course, it's something that you never imagine. You're lucky enough to get a pilot.
Right.
And you're lucky enough to maybe, you know, have a season or 2 on a show. So, you know, 14 seasons later isn't even something that you can ever see. Absolutely. So as an actor, I just feel incredibly lucky. I know that has a lot to do with it, but really thankful to the show maintaining its integrity. You know, what we've always given our audiences from the beginning, and our audiences being so incredibly loyal, and for how we keep getting more and more audience and new audience and kind of generational audiences. So we're very aware that it doesn't happen often, this kind of thing, and we're just incredibly appreciative. I think that's how we all feel across the board, very appreciative.
Right.
As an actor, to work that many years consistently is almost unheard of, but also a show to last that long is almost unheard of.
Right.
So we're psyched, and we're still enjoying it, and we're happy that people give a shit, you know?
What is your relationship like with the other day one cast members?
Well, you know, we're very close. It is like a family. It has always been like a family, and it's dysfunctional at times, it's happy at times, it's sad at times. We have babies being born, people dying. It is, and it's something that takes work. You know, like any relationships in your life, whether they be friendships or romantic relationships, you have to work at them, and you have to admit when you're wrong, and you have to listen to people, and you have to commit to friendships and put the work in. And that's certainly something I've learned, and try to practice that every day.
These folks have become family. We spend as much time, maybe sometimes more, with these folks than you do your actual family. So you get to know people, not everything, but you get to know enough. And you know, we've seen I think last count 33 babies in this 14 seasons born. We've seen kids go to college and transition onto their own. We've seen actors here who've transitioned and started directing episodes and branching out in their different careers that were fueled in a lot by what they got from here. And so I think it's a testament once again to the longevity of a show. And if you spend that much time with somebody, you better learn to like them. You know, and the good, bad, and the ugly, and all that. And this is as good a bunch of people as you're going to find in this business. And I've been fortunate, and I've done a lot of TV and film over this last almost 40 years. But this is as good a bunch of people as I've ever worked with.